Hey everyone, this week we will be going over more Statcast stuff. I'm going to show you again how to pull all Statcast data with the help of a particular person. I will mention them later, but pull all the Statcast data, and I figured out a way to, at least for plays that do have a description, figured out how to tie the proper video with that Statcast play so you can have that in your files. So we will get into it. So before we start pulling StatCast data, make sure that we have Bill Petty's Baseball R package loaded. So again, if you haven't installed it, go ahead and run this line of code, DevTools install _GitHub, and then Bill Petty Baseball R. And the Baseball R should be all lowercase. One less parentheses as well. So, Bill Petty Baseball R, run this code, run this line, and you'll be able to have the Baseball R loaded. And then we'll call it in our library, so library Baseball R, as such. And it should give you things along these lines if you haven't already have it loaded. I should say that if you already have the Statcast data set, you can go ahead and skip this part. I'll just be going over how to scrape every week of the season thanks to a specific function. A fellow Twitter follower of mine, Zach Tallevast, and if I get your name wrong, I apologize, but he showed me a way to kind of quickly get Statcast data rather than having to go through each line each week of the season like I did in the previous video. So what essentially we're going to do is we're going to create a function and then run that function within a for loop. So we'll call our function Savant Scrape. So Savant Scrape, and say function, because we want to create a custom function, and we'll say week start, week end, and then type. So essentially what we're doing with that is we're setting the start of the week, the end of the week, and then type is batting or pitching. And we'll say data frame, say baseball R, scrape, Statcast Savant, and then start date equals week start, and then end date equals week end, and then player type equals type. So now we have that custom function. Run that. So now we have our function written in there where it'll scrape on a week by week. So we found out that there are 26 weeks in the season, and we'll call a list like I have done before, Savant Weeks list. And we'll create a for loop. So for I in 1, 2 weeks, since there are 26, we'll say start is as date, and we'll say 2019 3/21, since that Japan series. So there really won't be Statcast data for that, but just as a frame of reference. And then 2019 3/28. So it'll go a week at a time. And then we'll create another, essentially a data frame called dat. And we'll say Savant Scrape start plus I times 7. So that way we know that whatever start date we do have, it'll automatically advance the next week or the next 7 days to be specific. And then end equals I times 7. And we'll say batter, so we want the hitting data. Then as a check, we can create a new column in the data frame called week, where we just essentially say what week of the season it is. You can do that to kind of create a checks and balance. And then to put that into our data frame, we'll say Savant Weeks I, and again we'll put dat inside of that. So we'll run this. It will take plenty of time, and then we'll continue on. After we have this loaded, again, it does take a while. We will put it into a singular data frame. So right now we have a list of data frames from each week of the regular season. So what we'll do is use the plier package. So we'll say Savant and we'll say plier :ld ply Savant weeks and then data frame. So that way we have each of the list of data frames into one singular data frame. So we'll call the plier package ldply. Savant weeks is our list, and then we want a singular data frame. So I'll run this. Next, to be able to put it into a CSV, we want to write a CSV. So write.csv. That way you don't have to run through this loop code again after you have it in a CSV file. So we'll say write CSV savant savant, and we'll say savant.csv in quotes. So we'll run that. I won't run that, but just run that line of code and we'll be good to go. So now we're going to call our tidyverse package. So how we do that, again, if you haven't it installed, just install that packages tidyverse, but to call it into our library, just call library tidyverse. Run that. I already have it loaded, but usually it'll bring up some messages about all the packages that it's available to use, and then we'll also call the library stringer. If you haven't already noticed, the MLB.com came out with a video search feature where you can filter by a certain player, filter by certain events. There's so much filters that you can go through, and now you can pinpoint specific parts of the video. So I figured out a way for, with the Statcast data, to figure out a way to get those videos that do have a description. So what we're going to do first is basically create a sample data set, because there are a ton of observations, so that does take a little bit of time to load. What we'll do is create a sample data set. So I'll say just sample, we'll say savant, piping operator, filter, and then we'll say is NA DES, which is the description of the play, false. We want it to be false, so we have the description of every play. And then we'll say sample N is 20. So we'll create that sample. Now we have 20 data sets. Essentially what we're going to do is get this description and convert it into a video or a video related format, so we can get the correct video of a certain play that does have a description. Now, I'm working on adding it for every single play, but right now I know how to do it for description, so we'll run with that. So how you do that is we'll create a new column called, or we'll change description to, so we'll say sample DES, and using the stringer package, we'll say string replace all. Again, call sample DES. And how we do this is for special characters like periods, commas, and parentheses. You'll do a double slash to indicate that you want to replace a special character. So we'll say period, and then the vertical line just means or in this case. So vertical line means or. Another double escape character, comma, or left parenthesis, or right parenthesis. So we can get rid of that and have those, and we'll replace that just with blank. So I'll go back to the sample data set and I'll give you an example. So we essentially want to remove these commas or this parentheses so we can get, or periods, so we can get this into a video URL. and we can be able to test this out. So do that, and then we'll also create another one where we will kind of replace the not periods, but the spaces with dashes. So again, that it matches the video URL. So we'll just say string replace all, sample DES, space, and then right here we'll put a dash to indicate that we want to replace all spaces with a dash. So we'll run both of these. And now we'll create another column called video. And what we'll do is we'll do a paste 0 https www.mlb.com/video/ and then this is where our functionality again it's all to lowercase, and we want to change that description to all lowercase. So how you do that in R is there's a function called to lower, and we'll say to lower sample DES. So we'll run this, and then we'll check the video URL of, say, the first play. So we'll say sample.video, we'll say 1. So we have this MLB.com/video, Derek Fisher grounds out softly to pitcher, Corbin Burns, first baseman, Jesus Aguilar. So I'm going to put this into the Google Chrome URL and see if it works. Trying out this URL that we created in R. Hit run this URL. It looks like it works pretty well. Again, it only works for description because, you know, balls and called strikes, things of that nature, are fairly too common.
To the finish line with guys that you know, may not be in there in some of those higher leverage situations, because even though he didn't pitch, but
so look at that, it works. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video, feel free to like and subscribe for future content. I greatly appreciate it, and yeah, I'll continue posting great content, and hopefully, you know, you find some use out of it. Maybe some other time we'll get into rendering some video, though R doesn't necessarily have the capability, so we may switch over to Python. But that's alright. We can definitely do that. So thanks for watching. Have a great rest of your day.